And here we are. Welcome, everybody tuning in wherever you may be. And you see, I have another remarkable spiritual mentor sitting with us here. This is Jen Bushman, and I'm personally really thrilled that she's here because I feel that she's amazingly cool and adept in her expertise. And we've only just encountered one another, so but we have a profound connection. So you'll see from a vibrational point of view, there's going to be a lot that we're going to be sharing, both overtly and also in a magical and mystical way. So let me just give you a context, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, namaste, namaste to you. And welcome to be here. As you know, deep dialogues are exactly what that says. It's a deep dialogue. So it's not about the dear one in front of me launching into a presentation. It's about having a conversation. So go deep into our souls and share the content of our soul in a highly meaningful way, knowing that right at the core of our essence is pure love. So, Jen is a visionary, an intuitive, a spirit teacher, whose journey began in childhood with a profound encounter in the land of her birth, which happened to be the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State, United States of America. And she was guided by her spirit guides to embrace her starseed mission to help humanity. And indeed, this is what she's engaged in. This happens, of course, through her own powerful professional practice, which is extensive. And you will see as she speaks that Jen is an immensely gifted, very forthright and incredibly sensitive spiritual mentor of renowned degree, aiding all who come to her through their own odyssey of spiritual enlightenment. Welcome, Jen Bushman. It's glorious to have you here. So I'm intrigued. What happened, this encounter when you were a child on that magical area of Washington State? I mean, the Olympic Peninsula.
Yeah, so the Olympic Peninsula runs parallel to the Pacific Ocean. And I was with my family. I was 4 years old, and we were backpacking up in the corner of the state, going out to Lake Ozette. And there had been a storm which had unearthed a whole bunch of artifacts. They found a longhouse and all kinds of native artifacts were unearthed. And so we went out to take a look. And it was my first backpacking trip. I'm from a family of 4. And we were with our good friends who were a family of 4, so 8 of us. And we're hiking along, and I noticed that there are monkeys in the trees. And this is the Pacific Northwest. We don't have monkeys in the trees. And I said to my dad, I turned around and I was like, Dad, there's monkeys in the trees. You never told me there were monkeys up here. And he said, there are no monkeys in the trees, Jen. And so, but I was pretty persistent, and I was like, look. And to me, they were monkeys. And so, that went on. And then my attention was elsewhere. And then it was on my socks because they kept falling down. So I stopped, and the group went ahead. And I was pulling my socks up, and I looked up, and there was the 2, what I thought were monkeys, but they were juvenile Sasquatch. And the mother was standing there. And I was really excited. I did not feel fear. I just wanted to play. And the mother told me telepathically to no, catch up with your family, go. And so, I said to my dad again, there's monkeys here. I was trying to explain what I had seen because I didn't understand what I had seen, right? To me, from a 4-year-old frame of reference, it seemed like monkeys, but they are not monkeys. They are a race. And So my dad said, no, no, no. And he got a little irritated and short with me. And then I knew that, I should be quiet, right? I knew, though, that it was puzzling to me that I could see him and he was not, nor was anyone else in my family or their family seeing this. So that happened when I was 4. So.
Wow. And so now, from the perspective of a number of years of visionary capacity, what was taking place?
Well, so Sasquatch is they're a consciousness. They are an ET race. They are a 25th dimension. They are here overseeing our relationship to the earth. They are also part of overseeing our consciousness. They talk about the Galactic Council, the Council of 12, the Council of 9, the Federation of White Light. It's all the same thing, but it is 12 beings that oversee our consciousness, our part of the universe. They oversee, so think of the universe, the megaverse is broken up into states. It's like states to me, or like designated areas. And in our particular state, we've got Pleiades, Orion, Andromeda, Sirius, Lyra, Arcturus. I mean, there's more, but they oversee the consciousness of this particular area. So, imagine the megaverse, the entire universe. There are these councils that oversee the consciousness, but they also oversee the consciousness of third dimensional experiences. So here on Earth, we live in the third dimension. The third dimension is all about emotion. Our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, they are frequency and they are energy, that we have the power to shape and mold our reality. That in the third dimensional experience, it's all about soul contracts, our soul contract work. Our soul contracts are not with people, they are through people. Our contract is with God or spirit or source, creator, whatever you want to say, coffee table, right? But so that in the third dimension, because we have emotion, we have judgment, therefore we have control, manipulation, lying. But it's the dimension where we can kill each other, essentially. And we do things that can shape like the molecular configuration of the universe. We make decisions that affect the rest of the universe. That is why the Sasquatch consciousness is part of overseeing our third dimensional consciousness. Long way around. Long.
No, you're giving us context, which is exquisite. And it also allows me to parallelize, because you're using words that are also within the logos of what the 12 angels of Atlantis give me, because they're in ancient Kabbalistic speech, they're called the Malakim. And the 12 Malakim, the 12 angels of Atlantis, overlike the 12 Melchizedek, meaning the white brother sisterhood.
Ooh, I like that.
So your guardianship has kinship with my guardianship and the creative principle thereof, which for the angels is the super creative power of the Elohim. And so they speak about the 12 Elohim. So of course the 12 beings of luminous light, the shining ones, et cetera, et cetera. So there are many parallels. So it's all exquisite. So when you feel the consciousness of your 4-year-old, obviously they were making contact with you playfully.
Yes.
And naughtily, because we know that monkey energy is all about naughty mischief. So they were speaking to you on a very specific level. Nobody else could see them. So now what is your perception of that truth?
Okay, well, this is where it gets really interesting. And I love what you just shared, Stuart. I mean, because we can go down that rabbit hole, but it's just so beautiful when we talk about like this consciousness, that there's these councils of beings, that there's groups of beings, there's energies out there that are constantly like molding us and shaping us in our consciousness, right? That support us. I think right now, the energy of now is feeling a little out of control, a little off kilter, and people are feeling anxious or fearful, or, just there's a lot going on the planet. So it's just lovely to talk about it, that there is support out there for us that's holding us up. So, but
and so if I may, so therefore we summon non-corporeal aid in this moment.
Right. Yeah,
because we know that they're the curators of our process. But there is this profound honoring and respect of the choice that we've made to be part of duality. Yes. And the human consciousness means choice, so it's like they won't interfere.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many people coming to me for angel readings, bless them, and I love to serve, of course. But when somebody says to me, "Well, what's Archangel Gabriel saying to me?" I say, "Well, actually, it doesn't quite work like that." Otherwise, it implies an interference with your consciousness. No, Archangel Gabriel intuitively, telepathically is asking for your questions.
Mm-hmm.
What questions do you have? What is it you want? Anyway.
Right.
So the meeting, because you see that your meeting was very similar to my childhood experience of luminescent beams of light and orbs of light that were surrounding me in a state of hypersensitivity. 3, 4, 5, where I just thought, what the fuck is this? That feeling, unfortunately being grounded by an immensely loving mother who was a paragon of unconditional love, and realized that her child was unusual, didn't quite know how to explore it, but just said, okay, well, we'll stay quiet for a moment and something will happen. Let's get still, as I was.
Oh, that is wonderful.
And so this was an immediate, powerful injection into your energy field of this interconnectivity that you have with the star beings.
Yes, and so it gets really good, because when about 4, 5, 6 years ago, you guys, somewhere in there, I met Gail Fowler, and she's the urban shaman, and she does Sasquatch readings. So I told her about my experience, and then she proceeded to tell me. So I have 2 children. My son, Sam, when he was born, it was a very long labor. Like, it went on for a couple days and lots of twists and turns, and nobody would know about that. But she described when Sam was born, and she said, "I'm tapping into your guides," and she said, "Your guides were the twins that you saw." And I was like, "What?" But she described in detail the birth of Sam, and that they are with me. She explained to me how Sasquatch can help us heal physically and emotionally, but healing, all kinds of healing in the collective, healing in our own bodies and our consciousness and heart. So, that was pretty amazing. And so they are here, and Rosie is their mother, and she is the one that I call on because I do healings with folks. And it's Rosie that I call on, and I will meet, my clients, Sasquatch guides, and introduce them. But it becomes like this whole healing fest. The twins will come. Camus is a Sasquatch elder. I encourage you to look him up, and there's books that are written, about Camus and the wisdom that he shares. And so that is
amazing.
It was pretty amazing. You're right, Stewart. It was amazing.
The way you speak it's so beautifully earthed. So we feel the very texture of their beings in your consciousness, almost as though they were literally sitting around you right now in bodies, Of course, we're talking about non-corporeal beings. And so it's beautiful that there is this connection. Do we know what constellation they arise from?
They're way beyond the Pleiades. Yeah, in this area, it's called Syar. And it was what seeded Pleiades. They're from there. 25th dimensional. SYAR. Yeah.
And how many dimensions do you feel perceptibly that there are?
Oh, there are a godzillion. There are. We can't count the dimensions, but right now, because you and I are having this conversation, we are in the third dimension. So that means, and all the folks watching, that we are concerned with dimensions 1 through 15. But it's really the work that we do between dimensions 6 through 15. This is the part of our soul's journey that we are in now. So when we're born, we plop out of the light. We join our soul family, which is 25 other souls. There are 26 souls in the soul family. This is what my Courtney, who is my ET guide, has channeled to me, explained to me. And we go off, we do our work between dimension 6 to 15. And when we've finished the work, get a little merit badge in each dimension, we reunite, we become a collective consciousness, we ascend back to or behind the sun. And we do our work there as one soul, one consciousness.
Mm-hmm. So from this perspective, which is so highly vibrational, have they provided you with an understanding of why it was necessary to move from oneness into two-ness, to return to oneness once again?
Right. Why that is necessary for
choice. I mean, I have my own understandings, my own teachings from the angels, but I just wondered if from their perspective.
Okay, so from their perspective, it is about that duality. It is about light to dark, that it is a dual. It's two. It's this constant reflection, refraction that happens. That we don't exist on one side or the other. And I just wrote a Substack on this, and I'm just finishing another article, but it's how the Arcturians teach us to ride the cusp, to stay in the middle, to not be, that our emotions do not drive us, that we stay centered. We can have our thoughts, we can process our feelings, but our emotions do not drive us. It's this black to white, this dark to light kind of relationship. And that it is us choosing, that's really what dimensions 1 through 15, the light dimensions are 10, 11, and 12. 13, 14 are light and frequency, like sound, like the Arcturians. They're about harmonic sound, like the angels. right? That's how they communicate. They are infusing our world right now. It's like they're broadcasting at all times in order for us to find and achieve balance. And they're working pretty hard lately. But that is, your question was why? And it is. It's that duality, that between dimensions. 1 through 5 is pretty set. These are like the foundational things. But 6 to 15, it's about choosing, that we ride that cusp, that we choose, that we understand that we can choose our reality, we can choose our experience as long as we are in alignment with spirit. See, in the third dimension, it's our conscious to our subconscious to our higher self, our physical and our energy bodies. When these are in alignment, we become an open channel. We experience the most joy, the most connection. Do you ever have that feeling?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like you're self-actualized, when you are the happiest and you have that overwhelming feeling of just, and the throbbing in your ears, and, your head kind of pulses with that, with that joy, with that happiness. So that's what it's about. It's about finding that middle ground, that space, that cusp.
Yes. Was it's the higher dimensional thought that I've been offered is that divine Mother, Father, God, Source decided to divide into two for the joy of becoming one again. So we have this reflective energy of contraction, expansion, of the light and the dark. The difficulty, of course, as we know, through the density of our emotional conflicts on planet Earth, is that we become caught in what they call the neuroses of separation, rather than being in the glory of diversity. So that we can feel ourselves measuring ourselves.
Right.
Not in conflict, but in what so many of we are doing, and I believe you and I are teaching, that we're allowing dear ones who come to see that the conflicts are purely reflections of their own split or separation within, and that if we can just rise above the conflict into detachment, stillness, and observation, we begin to see, so that's what it's actually all about, so that we can heal it for all time.
Yeah.
And therefore we reach into what Hinduism or Buddhism says is samadhi, which is that acceleration of consciousness where it is pure bliss, what you were just showing us, the wonder, the awe. The angels communicate through pure light, so they're giving me the divine logos to use through the fact that we're losing out on a feeling literacy. So we're feeling like shit most of the time, but we don't know what we're feeling. So what they're providing me with is a way of using the word in its pure sanctity as an element of sound, as an element of light, to inject into the consciousness of a dear one a way of being able to organize the spatials in their energy so that they cease feeling depressed, anxious, suicidal, and they start to see how they can move through duality into bliss, into delight, into, and of course it's interesting, you know so well that when you ask somebody, okay, so what are you feeling? They say, well, I'm not sure. And yet the reason why they're sitting in front of you is because, I don't want to move out of this because I'm very respectful of those individuals and the dear ones who come, but the reason why they're coming is because they want to find a way of articulating the confusion that the emotion bring with us. And it feels to me that as I share this, that this is a very, very similar terrain, as it were, for what you're sharing with us.
Beautiful. Wow. I love how you said that. The joy of becoming one again. I love that.
You speak much in your work about soul contracts.
Yes.
So we have an injection of the multiplicitousness of starseed energy and these wonderful nations that are with us in a curatorial sense, in a loving sense, in a gracious sense, surrounding us in a luminous field of sound and light and color to support us through the birth pangs of this new earth. But now we come here to also resolve certain aspects of past life process and to exercise powerful soul contracts with people and also with places and with, of course, all sentient beings. Could you give us a reflection on what you have in your portmanteau about how you deal with soul contracts?
Right. So soul contract work changed my life. I've always been fascinated for years, probably about 15 years. Really pursued, read a lot about soul contracts, thought about them, but it wasn't until about 4 years ago when I found Danielle McKinnon's work, her book on soul contracts, and I read it and I just devoured it in one evening, one night, stayed up late under the covers reading, and it totally made sense to me. And since then, I have my book will be coming out. I have a book and a workbook coming out this holiday season on soul contracts, but it's about, so soul contracts are not like with people. It's not like you have a contract with your wife, with your husband, with your parent, with your child. Soul contracts are with God, with Source, Creator, that they show up through people. And I channel, and actually Dolores Cannon came in about that and her QHHT work, because I was wanting to understand, because to me, soul contracts, like doing a QHHT, kind of a regression. That's quantum healing hypnosis technique, where you go back through a lifetime and you see what that lifetime was all about. But it was interesting in our conversation, you know, she said, I wish I had paid more of an emphasis on that. If you are going to journey back into a lifetime, look at the lifetimes and see the pattern that shows up. That when you are taken to the sun, you know, at your death, you are taken to the face of God and you are asked, okay, what was it that you were to learn this lifetime? And it's pretty simple, because you will see the patterns as they show up. And so soul contract work to me is about that reflection of what is being reflected back to you, that which you need to learn. What is Spirit trying to teach you about your relationship with yourself? What is Spirit trying to teach you about your relationship with Spirit through these contracts? So because we're in the third dimension, this is all about emotion, and our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, they are frequency, they are energy. And thinking about our whole existence here on Earth in the third dimension is about relationships. And so we have a relationship with our primary caregiver, all the way to traveling next to someone on the freeway, or you go in and have that brief exchange with somebody in the grocery store. Everywhere we go leaves an energy imprint on our soul. And it comes through how we process information through our experiences. So, looking at, so the soul contract energy, it would take forever to explain this, but it is learning to integrate. That's what that means, to transmute the energy off of your energy sphere so it doesn't dictate who you are. It doesn't dictate what experience that you will have in your life. Is the shortest answer I can find.
Absolutely. And for me, the way that this manifests is that it's new information for many people of what are the themes that you were referring to. What are the themes of what you perceive, soul contract, or what are the themes of the karmic experience? What are the behavioral frequencies? And that we don't often have a penetrative reflection of that because we're caught up in the story. So we're caught up in the emotion of the drama and the repetitive nature of it, which just intensifies it, because then we move into a terminal state, as it were, of resistance, of how we can begin to really understand, but so all of this behavior is actually to do with betrayal. So why have I created betrayal? Because I'm the master mistress of my own destiny. So obviously I've created this. So why am I creating betrayal? So that we can begin to really perceive a way of articulating. And when I say that, I don't just mean from an intellectual point of view at all. I'm talking about the energetic articulation, where we literally take hold of the musculature of what we're experiencing, and we find a way of being able to perceive what its value is, rather than damning it or judging ourselves, or mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa, how stupid I am, etc., etc. So we really begin to understand the multiplicitousness of what we're being shown, which is an act of creation, isn't it? We see all the, for example, having been into the current principal war zones on our planet. There are many war zones, as we know, but I speak of principality simply because of the way that the world is shaking with what's taking place in Ukraine, and the way that the world is shaking of what is taking place into Gaza. So having gone into both and seen the stacked nature of spirit waiting to go into light that have perished through conflict, through the horror of what that situation is. Somebody said to me the other day, well, what's it like being in Gaza? And I said, well, it's rather like being in hell, actually. If there's, because there's so much violence and so much anger and so much harm, it's stacked on so many different levels, not just with people who are living, but also with the people who have passed, and they don't know where they can find the light. So part of my role was, even though it was a UN workshop, was to help the dear ones who are aid workers who've been there since October the 8th, 2023, of how they could release their own PTSD or their own war trauma, even though they're very highly expert in relation to how they manage themselves in consistent, violent conflict. The point is that they don't have within their lives an understanding of the spiritual dimension, other than the fact that they have their faith, whatever the faith may be. It may be because they're Jewish, or it may be because they're Christian, or it may be because they're Buddhist, or whatever. But we know that that's just an idea which they associate with, unless they've gone through the journey of the mysteries of what the faith is really about, and how it's a way of being able to orchestrate all of these energies in a very profound degree. So there are many ancient contracts that are coming to a close in those areas of the world. They are epicenter for a very specific reason, both topographically, geographically, sociologically, and also from a timeline point of view, from the history of our peoples. And the sum total of the conflict is the simple theme of revenge. And I'm being highly simplistic because it moves in all sorts of different degrees. But the situation is quite simple. It's about revenge. When am I going to move from revenge into forgiveness? And stop perpetrating the behavior?
Right. It's as time is challenging us, that we are awake, we are aware, and we are at choice. And it's forcing folks to choose. It's like that, the Arcturians, right? Riding the cusp, choosing. You can choose how you want to feel about something and perceive something. It's kind of forcing people, pushing them to rise. Yeah. But contractual energy, it's seeing the patterns in things, seeing the patterns in your experience. Like my soul contract is I'm not enough. That is my big one. And so the people in my life have shown up. It's not like when we incarnate into this life that, I had a talk with my parents that, okay, you're going to play this role. I'm going to play this role. It was kind of, it's like, I'm going to show up in a way that reflects back to you that you are not enough. And
so there's a lot going on an unconscious level. I was just thinking, actually, that would make an amazing sketch, wouldn't it? Because there's such a level of hilarity about the whole thing. Okay, now your role is that you're going to be a victim right now. And the way it goes is like this, and this is your script. Okay, start. But what's so wonderful is that, the way you see, again, I use the word articulate, the way that you're articulating it. When two realities come together and there's a point of fusion and then they break apart, that's a point of articulation. So we begin to see the reason for why it's happening. And therefore we begin to discern how to choose, is this the highest choice or is this the lowest choice? Mm-hmm. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And what you were referring to is the repetitive. That's what I mean by the theme, because the themes keep repeating. And because we're woven within the bands of human consciousness, they come up as archetypal themes to do with, as you were just saying, I'm not good enough.
Right.
What is this hatred all about? I was watching a really interesting interview with Jimmy Fallon, the comedian, who has his own late night talk show, who has taken us through the last 16 years of societal rift upon rift upon rift, including the first Mr. Trump administration, including COVID. And it seems to be that these guys, because they're in the band of comedy, that they're archetypal unifiers, because what the comedian does, what the divine fool does, is to show us the truth about the situation, which hitherto we had not seen. So all the way through COVID, we would tune into them and they would make us laugh about the horrors of the day if we were in Horrorland, because everybody was worrying about what is COVID all about and all the conspiracy theories. And now we're reflecting and thinking, well, it's pretty obvious what it was all about, and it's called manipulation, control, and coercion. So the way the archetype of the patriarchal reality operates. It's a wonderful line in the Course in Miracles that says that the ego is suspicious at least and vicious at worst. So again, we get the dualities of the extremes, suspicious, which is the wily nature of the fox that I met on Saturday evening, and, the trickster, and you and your monkeys, the playful naughtiness of the mischief of the monkeys that happen to be these extraordinarily illumined beings, and the other extreme. Do you know, because your story began with the storm revealing artifacts, that evidently their energy membrane, the Sasquatch, were released by storm energy because you were part of the curtailment of storm energy?
Yeah. It was meant. Yeah, that's what Courtney is saying, that it was the impetus by which I was ready to see, that I was ready to be introduced. Because from then on, I had all kinds of interesting experiences my whole life. But right after that, it was really wild. In the 70s, they were recruiting young people, kids, like out of kindergarten and first grade to, they were testing them to see if they were psychic because they wanted to encourage psychics in the United States as part of their surveillance team, or because they were doing it in the USSR. So I had this interesting experience. There were 6 of us that were taken up to the resource room when I was in kindergarten. And I was asked all kinds of questions. And it was like this, I didn't trust this man, because I was in kindergarten, first grade, that end of the school. All of the teachers looked like grandma, they were all loving and kind and would hug you. But this guy, these men that came and were in the resource room, he had a skinny black tie and a white shirt, and I just did not trust him. And he was asking me questions. They tested us. We had to do all kinds of puzzles and doing predictions, like if it were this pattern of shapes, what would be next. And they asked me, have you ever experienced anything that you could not explain? And my friend, a boy who we used to communicate telepathically, and he was like, don't say a word. And I said, I'm not. And I just said, no. And, it was like, but I knew he was psychic. I mean, he was reading me. And, it was really interesting. That was an interesting experience. And my friend, he was actually taken into the program, but I was not. So, yeah.
What was the name of the program? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know what it was called. Never.
But at that time, as we both know, there was a tremendous amount of exploration of human consciousness that moved into sci-fi, both on the planet through human endeavor and projects like the one that you've just enumerated, but also from an extraterrestrial point of view, because that's really where Dolores started. I mean, Dolores was a great friend of mine, Dolores Cannon.
Ah, okay.
Yes, we shared a lot.
Wow.
And I was with her, way back in when did we meet? It was at a Mind Body Spirit Experience, an expo in, was it Los Angeles? I can't remember where it was, in the United States. And there was Dolores, and she said, I know you, And I said, yeah, I know you as well. And, that was our firm friendship. We talked a lot. So I was very aware, because she would confide in me about how her practice started and how it became as a hypnotherapist. And then, of course, the story was that, when she was being sent extraordinary human beings that had been abducted by the Greys and taken into the spaceships, who had often experiencing deep trauma, that as soon as she had been able to help them investigate the level of their consciousness and how to proportion the trauma, that then the Greys started talking to her, and that's why she started writing, and not just the Greys, other star nations. That's why she started writing The Convoluted Universe. So it's an amazing, talking of soul contracts, what an amazing experience to have on that level. As you are with your team, and here I am with the angels, reminding people of the purity of the lives that we lived in both Atlantis and Mu. But I have grave interest in. In fact, our next guest on Deep Dialogues is a wonderful being that I'd love to introduce to you, Keone Hanule, who is an amazing, a beautiful, beautiful man on the island of Maui. And he is, following over 1,500 years of ancestral wisdom. And he was talking about his grandmother, which is essentially around the wisdom of Fern and how Fern is a magical, medicinal entity that comes to us at this time to help
Mm.
us explore all that you and I are sharing in this moment. He's extraordinary, really, really extraordinary. Yeah.
I'd love to meet. I lived 10 years. I lived on Oahu.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
then my friend David Johnson, he's a channeler. He lives in Australia, and he regressed me back. He does QHHT, and I was Queen Liliuokalani. I was singing in Hawaiian, and it was the moment where Hawaii was annexed with the United States, from the United States, and so it was a really, he's got it on his channel. It's we put me under and we recorded it. So yeah, I would love to meet him.
Yeah. The level of integrity is so profound in Keone. He speaks magic, lives magic, and practices magic. He's very, very exceptional human being. Anyway, so I'll make sure that there's a connection for you. We speak of many things, and I'm aware of the fact that that here we are meeting for the second time in these incarnations that we're living, but actually that we've been together many, many times before with the star beings. And I'd love you to speak a little bit about the nature of the book or the practice that you're issuing into the world, so that people can experience the substantive nature of your work.
You mean my book that's coming out? Is that okay? It will be this Christmas, but it's or holiday, excuse me. But yeah, it's a workbook. I teach classes on it, and so it's about soul contracts, and it's talking about essentially what I just explained, what is being reflected back to us, that which we need to learn, and how it shapes and molds our experience in this reality in the third dimension. Because when you master your soul contracts, that is why we are here. We rise, we grow, we ascend out of here by mastering our soul contracts. So if you do not understand it and learn to transmute the energy, you will come back and that contract will be just a little bit more, little bit stronger. So that is why we are here, and I explain all that in the book. And then the accompanying workbook is like the exercises that I take folks through in the class that I teach, the classes that I teach.
Fantastic. Okay, everybody. So you've got this idea of what Jen is doing. Question for you.
Yes, sir.
In the richness and the mastery of what you're sharing with us and teaching, how do we discern what our soul contracts are? Can you give us maybe 3 themes of how we can go about being, in a sense, rather scrupulous? Because we know, I say scrupulous simply because the energies are acute in our world at this time. So we know that we're moving into a field of becoming that is just exquisite, but we haven't quite got there yet. And so the reason why we haven't got there is because we need to do a lot of sorting out, a lot of cleaning, a lot of washing, a lot of sweeping of floors, both internally and also externally. I'm not supported by the fact that so many of the pressures are collective, because obviously our own choices are ripples of energy that affect the collective. I wondered if there were 3 themes. I'm just looking at it simply because 3 is the number behind all manifestation, that you would recommend as being ways of being able to perceive the journey into how can I define my soul contracts?
Right. Well, the first thing you can do is make a list and look at the patterns in your life. If you are finding that you have the same experience in your job, but at different places. The same experience with your life partner or a partner, and you're having the same relationship, but it's with different people. You know, you're encountering the same struggles like in parenting with your child. These are examples of things that make a list and look for the patterns, and you will see the patterns of behavior. And that will break it down into, because essentially the whole goal is that you trace it back to where that solidified, where that contract was left as an imprint on your soul. And then it molded and shaped you into growing this certain way, whether it's real or it's not. But this is your reality, right? It shapes and molds our reality. So, for example, my contract is that I'm not good enough. And I grew up with parents, and this is not at all, I love my mom and my dad. I am not at all digging on them, or this is just pulling back and looking at the players on the stage, reflecting back to me that which I need to learn. That's the whole point of us being here. So they did that very well in, in their energy, in reflecting that to me. They moved the goalpost a lot. I was never enough. And so that was kind of my experience. That's how I perceived things. And then as I grew and I was in my marriage and I wasn't enough. I was at work. I was always never enough. Therefore, I overperform, overwork. But I would always wind up with the same result. But like I said, in different places where I worked. So you look for the patterns, and it's like, yes, it's really cool. You start to tag, you start to see where these things show up. And then it points to the anchoring seed thoughts and the soul contract. And then you learn to transmute it. The process of transmutation is about figuring out, okay, I figured it all out of when it started, where in my life this began. And you see that, and you start to tag it and see where it shows up. But the whole point is to see what is it that you broadcast out into the world, because we're all about thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. They are frequency. Where we are at is what we attract. What we think about becomes. But the energy that we marinate in, what we feel, is the experience that we will experience, that we draw to us. So it's learning that and seeing yourself, what you broadcast out, what you draw to you, and you get to change that whole narrative. Because when you understand it, and then you do a few of the transmutation exercises, it's like, dang, this feels really good. I'm starting to pull away, separate from it. I'm not there anymore. I'm not bathing in it. It's not oozing all over me anymore. I am, I'm feeling free and solid, and that people can be who they are. For a long time, I was very angry at my mom and dad, and I was a snarly 20-something-year-old, and into my 30s, 40s, just really. But now, it's like, I love them very much. They just did their job exceptionally well, is how I look at it. But I appreciate them for just as the beings that they are. We all play a role, and it's, in each other's lives. I mean, I was reflecting back to them what they needed to learn. And it can be kind of funky and tricky and twisted, it feels, but then it can be extraordinarily beautiful. Like, I spent the majority of my life, you guys, just sad, And as a teenager, I was always trying to kill myself and very depressed in my 20s, 30s, in my 40s. And, this has changed my life. I don't experience that. I am grateful for every moment that I have experienced. I've experienced some very tough things, a lot of trauma, violence, but I am so grateful because I would not be who I am today if I hadn't experienced those things.
Thank you for your honesty.
You're welcome.
It's really exquisite because you present what embodied transparency is. And of course, what's interesting through the art of alchemy, that you've blithely used the term transmutation 7 times, and it is obviously very important. We sort of take it so for granted that we know what that's all about. But actually, it is, for me, it's the most precious. Firstly, the most precious science, but actually, as we know, it's about the interface between spirit and flesh, of how we can transform and therefore live, not to move from the pain body and live in the bliss body, which is effectively what you've done, because we feel bliss rippling from every pore of your being, radiating from you, from every organ of your being. And what I'm heading to is the question, so if we take I'm not good enough, what's the point of salvation? What was the shift from that state into the alchemy of the altered state of consciousness? What would you call it?
I'm not sure I understand your questions.
Well, you've mentioned you mentioned 5 times that my soul contract was I'm not good enough. So what's the opposite?
Right. I'm good enough. I am too. Yes, I am.
Sorry.
It's okay. But I truly that. I know it sounds like so simple. Like
no, actually, the reason why I did that was I wanted to experience, and I wanted everybody else watching to experience how free you are, because your joy, your humor, in stating that is so obviously embodied. It's not, you see, because so many people, as you know, mask themselves in the conceit of the intellect, the tyranny of the intellect. So we have we've read the books, we've articulated what it's all about, but we're not experiencing it. And the fact that you actually, what you've just shown us is what salvation is. Because you went, wow, and burst into peals of laughter, rather than, what are the alternatives? There are other scripts. You could have damned me forever for asking the question. You could have looked at it and said, well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? And then that would have been improving my own, but I'm not good enough. Fantastic.
But I really feel that, Stewart. Like, I really... Yeah. But it pops up, you guys. It's not like...
So tell us about that.
Okay, well, it's not like you transmute it once and then boom, it's over. Like, dang, here we go. No, unfortunately, it's a tool to put in your toolbox. And because that's the whole point of being here, being alive, being in this human body, my spirit here, to have this experience. So it's constantly being reflected back to me that this is how I interpret things, that, I am not. So it pops up in my daily life and friendships in every moment. And it's something that I am aware of. But the difference is that I see it now, that the train is coming down the track and now I jump off instead of just standing there and, just being bowled over with it or getting caught up in the drama of it or, I step aside and I recognize the feelings. There are times, though, where I I'll ruminate on it and I'll chew it on it and it will affect me. But I'm better. I'm just better at managing it and how I respond to it. And just the whole point of recognition, just seeing it.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Because we're fundamentally, as you speak, I feel I'm sensing it. I hope everybody else is, that we're being led home to the remembering. And then there's the celebration of bliss. There's a celebration of delight. There's a celebration of salvation and atonement at one moment, which is such a powerful discipline to learn. But ecstatically free, not binding in some sort of intellectual thesis or something. It's about what we experience. This has been an amazing conversation. I want to thank you from the depth of my heart and the very core of my soul. What you share is so wonderful because as you speak, you live on so many different levels of your being, and you share with us not just the clarity of the realities and the perceptions that you have and the obvious intrinsic nature of your healing, but also we feel you. There's a wonderful word in Yiddish, which is mensch. You're a real mensch.
You're a mensch. Yeah.
A wonderful human being.
Thank you.
Well, bless you, darling. And because I have a theme, I'm not good enough. I really accept that.
Oh no, you don't.
I'm a wonderful human being. I'm a wonderful human being. Oh gosh. Because we both know on the other degree what the suffering. Just one final question that I'd love to ask from your wise consideration of the world.
Okay.
Everything at the moment is so hurly-burly. There's so much confusion. How do you feel we can dispel the confusion and move into fusion?
Well, you know what I do? So I'm really into the dimensions, and I'm writing a book on that too. That'll be out next spring. But dimension 1 is finding the still point within you guys. It's remembering your blueprint. It's not about any thought. It's not about any emotion. It's not about our consciousness yet. It's just being. It just is. So if you can anchor yourself, do something like going outside, hug a tree. Hugging trees is amazing. Sasquatch travels through trees, by the way. But if you hug one and just feel it and put your ear up to the trunk and listen and just feel what you feel, you'll feel better. You'll just kind of get a buzz and you'll relax. And then take a chair with you or sit on a rock, sit on a bench, and just feel the roots coming out of your butt, out of your feet, so that you are just completely anchored and burrow down into the earth and connect to the crystalline grid, or connect to the most beautiful rock you've ever seen in the earth. Or if you're into crystals and work with crystal, see that crystal that you want to work with that day and pull the energy up. And then see a column of light come down, anchor around you so that you're seated. It's like seated into the earth. And you're just in this white, juicy, golden light. Open up your head and just let that energy just flow in. Just see it moving around your cells and your brain and moving down and moving, swirling around your heart and then into your organs. If you've got like digestive issues, if you're anxious, if you feel separate from your root, that root chakra is your foundation. And you want to see it as bright red, and you want to see the still point within. See a little light inside your heart, the beginning of you, the blueprint of you, and just feel, just drop in and feel your feet heavy, your legs heavy, and just breathe. And just sit there and let that energy flow. Some people have the ability to see themselves as the torus, that toric field. You see the earth and it's that magnetic field. See yourself like that. See yourself, this column of light, and it just brings in the energy that's around us, and it's just washing in that juicy light, and just move it up and down. And it will anchor you. It will ground you. Finding the still point within, remembering who we are, the beginning of us, because all this is just shit, all this energy, this entropy that just flies around, that comes from our human interactions. This time is forcing us to choose light. So what this is all about, finding that place within you that is at peace and balanced, and you find your joy. Stay in your joy. Do things that bring you joy. If it's watching Pride and Prejudice on the couch, if it's, going outside and hugging trees or hiking, if it's whatever it is that you love to do, do that. Stay in your joy, because that just snuffs out any kind of this entropy, this weird stuff that's going on, that's challenging us to choose. Understand that COVID was an activation point. It caused us all to stop, go within, feel, examine, rise, expand. And it did. But look at all the people that have found their way to YouTube and, are getting readings, and they're just waking up. It's so beautiful. But again, November, December of last year was an incredible activation, especially for the ninth dimensional beings that are on the planet right now. And it just was activated into chaos, and just kind of this, now we've got this frenetic energy. And so it's causing folks to choose, finding that still point within.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Within. Yeah, you're welcome.
A parting poem from Jen. Jen Bushman, thank you so much for this deep dialogue, and I hope that we can return next year to consider how wonderful it's been to have your book out in the world, and all of the extraordinary people that have come to buy the book and have given you feedback, so that we can all send our love to you, just to ameliorate the whole process of you are good enough.
Yeah, thank you, my dear.
Stay, and please just stay where you are. But to everybody listening, please keep tuning into the channel, because we have other exquisite people like Jen who are going to be with us, and I just want to share them all with you, because they're people of immense integrity and wisdom. So Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Stewart.
Bless you.